Hello Rayclast, welcome to the latest build guide for my latest crappy build. This time around it is Crit Umbilicus Zombies. This one won't be quite as nicely broken down or as formal as the Dual Striker build, because this build kind of sucks and I really don't recommend anyone do it. But we'll cut up some footage in the side here. We have cleared most of the big content in the game with it. Uber Lab's actually real easy on the build. Shaper and Guardians, as you can see, we did. Died on all of them multiple times. There's a lot of issues with the build, mostly related to unfortunate lack of control over your zombies and poor minion AI. But nonetheless, if you want to try and push zombies to be as beefy and damaging as you possibly can, this is probably the way to do it. As you'll see in the Shaper footage, they actually take down Shaper pretty quickly. At least when Flasks are up, they beat him down pretty hard, but you know, can't dodge the slams unless you have Convocate, and we're out of gem slots and stuff, and they all die in the bullet hell phase and whatnot. So there's a lot of issues with the build. It also clears just incredibly slowly, so it's really painful to play for general mapping. It's not as great on bosses as I had hoped, but this is a build that is capable of killing all the stuff in the game just with zombies, albeit with a lot of deaths and pretty inconsistently. So we will start by looking at the gear, actually, since we're using a lot of different stuff here. First off, we're using the Baron. I know it got nerfed in 3.1, but it's still pretty good, especially for this build. And I think Baron is kind of a necessity if you want to even attempt an Umbilicus build, because you can't heal with Flasks, and you're not doing any damage yourself on a summoner. So you kind of need some way to leech, and the Baron gives you leech from your zombies, which helps you stay alive sometimes through some stuff. It's still a really inconsistent build. You could never ever even attempt this kind of a build on hardcore. It wouldn't work at all. But along with Baron, we've got Astramentus. We need stats. We've got strength wherever we can get it on some rares. The other uniques we've got Alberon's Warpath, because it gives percent strength, really high percent strength. Of course, we've got Umbilicus, which makes our flasks apply to our zombies and specters. Over here we've got a Leucosidae, and we have Necromantis Aegis, as you'll see on the tree. This is really important if you want to go crit zombies, and really it's just about the best thing you can have on Necro Aegis for any attack-based minion build. If you go into like Path of Building or whatever and you start messing around with gem links on summons, you'll find, surprisingly, that increased accuracy is like one of the highest DPS boost gems you can throw in for most minions. That's because minion accuracy is just really, really crappy at the base level. So Leucosidae on Necro Aegis is a massive DPS boost for your minions, particularly when we're going crit minions. In this case, crit zombies. You'll notice in the footage, most of my zombies are running around with frenzy charges and power charges, and that's because for our two specters here, we have a Carnage Chieftain and a Host Chieftain. Carnage Chieftains give frenzy charges and Host Chieftains give power charges. So our zombies stay full on charges most of the time. Charges are really strong for minions. For example, power charges give 200% increased crit chance per power charge. And then we've got increased critical strikes attached to our zombies. So they have 7 base crit because they have 5 at the base level, and then 2 from this increased crit strike support. That gives them 7. 7 times 7, since they have 600% increase from thing, is 49. Plus a little bit more from your 90% there, you're up at like 56-ish% crit. Throw in a Diamond Flask and your zombies are up around almost 80% crit, effective crit, when you've got your Diamond Flask up with your Umbilicus. So that's a lot of crit. That's the most important pieces of gear. I'm using Montreagles here because I don't even think you could probably do Shaper at all if you didn't, because the zombies would just die too easily because too low HP. But you could double your amount of zombies if you ditch the Montreagles. One important thing to note is that we have 1,000 strength. You need 1,000 strength to get the leech from your Baron, and 900 strength will give you +3 zombies, and then we have a +1 zombies Katarina craft on our chest to give us +4 zombies. Ignore all the annoying noises going on. So that gives us 12 zombies total. Montreagles brings it down to 6 super zombies. Go through the gem links here. Again, we've got our raised zombie and increased crit strikes. Then we've got an Empower 4. Also, this build has an insane amount of currency poured into it for how garbage it still is, which is why I said I'm doing this informally. I don't recommend anyone actually do this build. I mean, it kind of accomplished its goal of doing everything with zombies, but it did it really poorly with a lot of deaths and unreliably, and was just not even remotely worth the level of investment. But we've got Empower 4, Melee Fizz, Minion Damage, and then increased crit damage is a really big boost for this when your minions have their power charges up, because minions, there's no way to scale your minions' crit multiplier. On a lot of builds, increased crit damage isn't nearly as big of a multiplier because you usually have a bunch already from the tree and gear and whatnot. There are no sources of that. Let's do a sale while this is going on. There are no sources of minion crit multi on the tree at all. So your minions just have their base 150 multi, which means the increased crit damage gem is a really big bonus. Looks like this guy doesn't actually want to buy anything. So that's your 6 link for your zombies. In our helmet, we've got Clarity, Minion Life, Animate Guardian, Summon Stone Golem. We're mostly just running the level 1 Clarity for a little extra mana regen to spam our stuff. Probably not strictly necessary because I ended up not putting haste on Generosity, so you might want to throw a convocation there or something if you want to try and make the build a little more legit. But I'm pretty much done messing with the build at this point. Over here, we've got Haste, Flesh Offering, Increased Duration. Obviously the increased duration is just helping the Flesh Offering, it's not doing anything for the Haste. Haste I do not have on Generosity because I like the Haste on ourselves, or the cast and move speed. Helps us be just a little bit quicker. Down on our boots, we've got Vol Haste, Hatred, Increased Duration, and Generosity. Of course, the Increased Duration is only doing anything for the Vol Haste, but we have that down here for our Generosity. So Vol Haste and Hatred are both on Generosity to jack those up. Over in our gloves, we've got Spectres, Spell Echo, Blood Magic, Minion Life. You need Blood Magic on these Monkey Spectres because they run out of mana really fast and do not use their stuff enough if you don't have Blood Magic in, so your charges are falling off all the time. And Spell Echo makes them double cast because even though it looks like a Warcry the animation, it's actually a spell that they cast to give charges, so Spell Echo will make them give double charges each time they do it. And then over here in our Montreagles, we just have Desecrate and Decoy Totem, and then a Vulnerability. That could be whatever curse you want, Temp Chains, Enfeeble, whatever. I want Vulnerability. So those are the gem links. For our flasks, we've got a Silver Flask. I've got Chemists of Adrenaline here. I think Adrenaline's pretty important because we don't have a Quicksilver Flask. And we've got a Chemist's Diamond of Warding, Sin's Rebirth, at Zeri's Promise. Either one of these, I'd probably recommend switching the Sin's Rebirth out. Could be a Taste of Hate if you wanted to make your zombies a little more resilient against fizz damage, because zombies have very little armor, but our zombies do have cap resist, so that would be a nice chunk of mitigation. And then over here we have a Chemist Sulfur Flask of Heat. The Consecrated Ground gives 6% life regen, which is pretty nice for our zombies because they have 30,000 health. So 6% life regen is a lot of life regen per second. I was using a Blood of Caraway here for a while, but I found out that the Sulfur Flask seemed to be pretty much just as good for helping them stay alive, because it gets 4 charges with a perfect Chemist roll, and it gives them more damage, so I ditched the Blood of the Caraway. That's it for flasks. We'll now take a brief look at the passive tree here. It's kind of a modified version of what you generally see on a Baron build. We're a Witch Summoner here, of course. We work our way over to Necromantic Aegis. You'll see we've got efficient trainings here and here. Up here we've got 1 Violent Dead. Over in the Templar area we've got another Violent Dead. I'll of course post links and stuff to Path of Buildings in the video description so you can see all the jewels and stuff. Then down here we've just got like a bunch of Brawn jewels in all of these slots to get us over 1,000 strength. We pick up all the clusters that give plus zombies on the tree. Go to the Spectres for +1 Spectres so we can have our double monkeys. Some R effectiveness stuff here. Basically we're just getting as much strength and life as possible while also hitting the minion nodes along the way. So there's really not anything too special about the passive tree. It's kind of a standard-ish Baron passive tree with a few modifications to get Necro Aegis and whatnot. As you can see, the gameplay style, you just run along keeping your Desecrate and Flesh Offering up as much as you can. Pop Vol Haste whenever you can. Try to stay out of the way of anything as much as possible because we're pretty squishy even at 6.1k health. We really have about 0 mitigation. We're not even blocking at all because obviously our block goes away with Necro Aegis. You send your zombies onto stuff, you spam your flasks, you hope the stuff dies before you die or your zombies run into some big AoE that manages to kill them. There's really not much in the game that can kill them. None of the Guardians really do a significant amount of damage to them. not much you're ever going to run into in any other maps ever does much to them. It's really just Shaper slams and Shaper bullet hell phase that does much to them. They're pretty impervious to most other forms of stuff, and the rest you're running like crazy double damage mobs with maps with double beyond, so you're getting like huge boss spawns spamming AoE and stuff into them. I guess lastly I'll talk about our Animate Guardian. He has a Xandathus Cassock for his chest, which makes it so when he blocks, he also drops Consecrated Ground, so that can help out a little bit if your Sulfur Flask is down. You might want to do something else if you're going to run the Sulfur Flask, but none of the chests really have that much of an impact. He's using a Singularity Scepter, which slows stuff around him, Victario's Flight Boots, which makes him and me and all of the other minions faster. Leer Cast gives everything damage. And then for his shield, I've just got the Oak on him. All the Oak does is just give him a ton of regen, so he'll never die. I can't even remember what his gloves are, probably just Southbound to give him more life. Glove choice isn't really very important on him. And your Stone Golem, I think, is the proper Golem choice, just because he's got the taunt and he's really tanky, so it gives you one more thing to try and distract enemies from you, so you can run around with your stupid belt and try to stay alive. We've got a decent amount of regen. You can see when we get popped in the videos, our health actually goes up pretty quick if our zombies are leeching and we're standing in consecrated ground that our zombies spread all over the place. But you still cannot take much punishment. If you want to try the build, like I said, I'll post all the path of building and stuff in the description so you can examine the character, make changes and whatnot. Maybe you can find a way to make it work a little better. You could certainly do this Super Zombies build idea without Umbilicus. Obviously, they're not going to do nearly as much damage. And at that point it's really a totally different build, because then you're probably not going to want to go crit, because they'd only be around 50% crit with no Diamond Flask. But you can definitely tweak the build, mess around with it however you want. This just shows that even if it's unreliable and you die a lot, zombies do have the stats and damage and stuff to kill everything in the game. The big hindrance is just their AI. You'll notice, you may have seen some of the clear footage here, doorways and narrow hallways are like really crappy, because sometimes your zombies will all just stack up and body block each other because they're trying to attack something that's in the back of the pack that they can't get to, so you're just like stuck there and you have to find a way around to pull your zombies around to the back of the pack because they just will not attack anything in the door. Doesn't really matter how much you do to pump up their stats and damage, and GGG's even given us more ways to do that. Until their AIs change, zombies are just not going to feel very good as a main skill. I think they're definitely still better as a supporting cast for a more standard Spectres build, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you liked seeing something a little different, even if it's not very good. In fact, it's really not good, but it can do everything in the game. I encourage all of you to go out there and do weird builds and stuff. Maybe you don't need to pour nearly as much currency into a stupid build that I knew probably wouldn't work like this. But I think that's all the fun of Path of Exile, is just experimenting and trying new stuff rather than doing the same cookie cutter things over and over. So I say go out there, experiment, try new things, throw things into the game and actually get your hands on them, even if the numbers don't look good in Path of Building. And you'll have a lot of fun. Even if the build doesn't work out, it's fun trying to push stuff and struggle and trying to optimize a concept as much as you can, even if in the end of the day it's kind of a letdown. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'm not done with this league yet, I don't think. I do have another character that's leveled up that I haven't made a guide for yet, a Freeze Pulsar. Working on that a little bit. I'm kind of bored of the character, but I'll probably make a guide for that as well. I'm trying to freeze everything I possibly can with that character, and it's frozen T15 map bosses, most of them so far, as well as Elder and his Guardians. We'll see if I can jack my stuff up high enough to freeze Shaper's Guardians. I kinda doubt it, but maybe some good chills at least. So stay tuned for that, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and we'll see y'all later.